Welcome to Season 2 of The Visible Artist. My name is Sophie Loxton-Lucas, and I'm delighted to bring you this conversation with self-taught street artist Sentrock. I absolutely loved visiting Sentrock's beautiful studio in the heart of Pilsen, Chicago. The space is split into two. At the back of the building is his creative studio, packed with sketches taped to walls, shelves lined with spray cans and print screens stacked up. And at the front, facing the street, is a light-filled, white-walled room with large artworks, art books, and his distinctive bird mask figurines on display. It is rare to come across a celebrated street artist with such an accessible presence in his community in this way. Passers-by can look in through the windows and enjoy seeing the work on the walls. Sentrock uses his own distinctive moniker of a human figure wearing a bird mask to explore and celebrate his personal history. Inspired by the bird as a symbol of escape and imagination, Sentrock has painted different versions of his character on over 15 murals across the city. Commissions include City of Chicago, Chicago Fire, and National Geographic. And most recently, Sentrock brought his world to life in 2D and 3D form with his first solo museum exhibition titled The Boy Who Wanted to Fly at Elmhurst Art Museum. We discuss why his open approach to his community is so important to him and how it feels to put such emotive works onto public walls. We also explore his journey from painting graffiti to exhibiting with galleries and museums, and how he maintains his authentic voice when working on commissions. Sentrock is such an open, warm person who is truly inspiring in his approach to his work and his path as an artist, so I really hope you enjoy this conversation.
We are here live from Sentrock Studios in Pilsen, neighborhood of Chicago.
Hi, Sentrock. Thank you for having me in your studio space.
Of course. I am honored that you flew all the way over here to just visit me in my studio.
Yeah, I pretty much got straight off the plane and came here. It's interesting sitting here. This is sort of a gallery, almost half studio space for you, isn't it?
It is. It's not really. Like, I don't utilize it as a gallery space. Like, I don't have people come and, like, look at my art. Do you want to buy something? It's more like, let me get all these works out of my back workspace and just hang them up so they're not, like, just taking up space everywhere. But yeah, it feels, I try to compartmentalize my space.
Yeah, it feels like a gallery space anyway. You've got white walls and your artworks. We've got this really large painted piece here. And
that's true. I'm going to paint over the white walls.
Yeah?
I want it to feel more cozy, not like a gallery.
Okay, yeah.
So, and I was wondering, like, why does it feel so, like, gallery-esque? And it has to be the white walls. I'm going to paint over them. I
think it's the white walls, the spotlights.
And the fact that it says gallery up front.
Yeah. Yeah, you have these big windows. So people can look in and see you, which is quite unusual for an artist to have this sort of almost shop front space.
True. I'm very, like, up front to my community. I'm very, like, face forward. Like, I'm here, I'm in the community. I do work, because I want to inspire the community. So.
And when you say community, who do you mean?
I think I mean, the immediate surroundings, but also in general, like, the Latino community and culture.
And tell me more about this neighborhood, Pilsen. Like, why is it important for you to be here?
Well, you got the National Museum of Mexican Art, like a block away from me. You have about 50 Mexican restaurants all down 18th Street. You got galleries, and predominantly it's a Mexican neighborhood. I'm Mexican American, and it feels like home, and that's why it feels good to be here.
And do you bring that into your work? I feel like this piece here we're looking at, that could be those elements.
That's a good eye. Yeah, some of the, like, it's just art is going to reflect its environment at some point. And so I think there's a little bit of elements of, like, me taking my outside, view and applying it to my work.
Yes. Well, let's start by talking about your work, because it seems incredibly personal, almost autobiographical, and it celebrates your culture. Like, I think talking about your work will reveal quite a lot about you as an artist and your journey.
That's very true. I feel like this might get very personal.
That's okay.
Because, my work is definitely it's a reflection of like my journey or my life type of thing.
So can you tell me about your work and some of the themes? And of course, I'm thinking of the bird mask character, which always comes up almost straight away when people think of you.
Right. Yeah. So like my signature character is a bird mask character. You know, it started off me just painting like cartoon birds and then painting like cartoon bird characters. And then now I kind of evolved it into more of a mask that I want people to kind of see themselves. They could put themselves in it, or they know that what's the story, like what's the person behind the mask, like what's that story about. So I've been able to like, you know, share like this visual narrative of different storylines of my, you know, my personal life, but then also I feel like I said, my community, like what we go through and stuff like that.
A bird is such a evocative image. Like everyone's looked up at the sky, seen birds and seen them flying.
Right. They're so, I don't want to say common, but they're everywhere, you know, birds are everywhere.
I was reading an article by Colossal, and it was talking about the more illustrative works that you did about your family and then your neighborhood. And I saw that picture of you and your mother when you were really young, and then you and then you painted a picture of you with the bird. It was really, it felt like such an intimate, charming image and picture of you. Yeah. Very personal.
Yeah, it was very personal. I guess in a way, I take a lot of, or I channel a lot of emotions or ideas through my work. And then I feel like I do that too, because not only just for my own, you know, mental being, but also I know there's tons of people that might relate to that. You know, maybe they were raised, you know, with a single mother, so they can relate to that image. Yeah, I think, that's why I do it too. Because it's like, all right, if I went to this, I know there's thousands, millions of other people, you know, young Mexican kids that grew up in the same situation.
And you've depicted your character so from such a young age with the bird mask, and then as he grows older and other characters as other people as well. Which is interesting. Yeah.
Like I said, I want people to different walks of life to be able to resonate with it.
And talking of street art, there often is a character and a story, isn't there? And did you consciously create the character with that in mind, or was it much more organic the way it came about?
It's a little bit of both. You know, naturally you have to allow the process to take place, but also you have to keep kind of like taking one step in the right direction. Yeah, if you hear that, I apologize. We're on a busy street. Diesel trucks just like to drive by. But yeah, I think it has to be, you know, two parts. It has to be organic. You have to allow the process to take its place, but you also have to take the right direction, you know, take your steps where you want to go. So for like my character, it started off, graffiti was my original way of creating work. And then everybody, you know, in graffiti art, you have a name, you have your alias, your moniker. And so for me, I just kind of channeled the same way. Like, all right, this was my nickname. Now this is my character, you know, like these are the letters. This is the character.
And it's really developed now because you can buy figurines of the character? And
you can. I mean, they're all sold out now. Yeah. So.
But they were created, so it's really cool. They were
created, vinyl figures, worked with companies. We've had plushes, we've done rugs, we've done merchandise, we've done a ton of stuff. And people love it, you know. People, like I said, it's sold out. Not to try to like flex, like, oh, I did that, but that people are resonating with the story of this character.
And you've painted murals all over Chicago using this character, haven't you? Yeah,
and that's been a very... I guess a testament to the work too is that big brands are wanting to work with me, and they're like, no, we want you to do your character, which has been dope. Because I'm like, I just finished up a mural for the National Geographic, and then I'm like, all right, I could do, you guys like, you know, nature and this and that. And then I'm like, should I do my character? And they're like, yes, we want you to do your character. Like, that's what, you know, that's why we come to you, basically.
Yeah, that's really exciting.
Yeah,
really
so basically I got paid by National Geographic to do this super dope mural downtown, and I basically got paid to paint my character, you know?
So I'd love to talk more about your experiences working with brands and commissions, but before we get onto that, Can you just tell me about how you got into being a street artist in the first place?
Okay, yeah.
I have personally worked with street artists in the US and the UK, but it's usually through galleries like print studios, like All Star Press, and the street art world. So I've worked with them, but more within the context of the more traditional gallery world. But the actual street art world is more of a mystery. I'd love to hear about how you became a street artist and what that world is like from your perspective, actually painting on the streets.
Right. Yeah, I got into doing street art in the traditional way that a lot of young kids growing up in the hood do it. They see graffiti, they see their older homies doing graffiti, and you're like, yo, let me pick up a can and let's go run around in the middle of the night and let's go just tag on anything we can and get our name up. And then the next day at school, we'll brag to our homies like, yo, did you see our tag? And it was like, it looks super trash, but it's like, that's how I got into it. Me and my friends. And we thought we were like, just on top of the world. We'll get one little tag on a rooftop somewhere, and we thought we were doing something. And so that's how I got into it. And then, like I said, it evolved with me doing, so I always had the nickname Scent since high school. So I would take the S, E, and in the E, I'll turn that into like a character's face. Or I'll do the S-E-N-T, and then I'll do a character next to it. Or like, so then that's how like my character started to evolve into my letters. And then I just really started, the storytelling side of it. I'm like, all right, I like doing this. This is fun. This is allowing me to kind of get some pent up energy or whatever when I go do graffiti. But it's like, all right, let me also now share a story. Because at that time, well, most of my life, my pops had been in and out of prison. And then so around that same time, I remember sending him pictures of like my art and different things. And in a way, it was in my head, I'm like, yo, I'm going to inspire him, which I think, he appreciated. But also for me, it was like, all right, how do I deal with this, So it was those two things that allowed me to take my graffiti background as a teenager and then evolve the storytelling with what I was going through in my life and channeling that.
And that's when you started then painting the larger pieces.
Right. So then I would just start creating artworks, and doing stories. Like if I were to paint maybe not so much of a legal wall, but a space that was like, all right, let's say an abandoned warehouse. Let me go paint something. Then I would do my character, or I'd write something, or I would do a little bit more storytelling. So then, it evolved from there, and people would see my work. Galleries would see my work. They would see my stickers up. They would see little things that I would do around the city. So I got my first show. And then from there, that was like, oh, wow. Like, it wasn't like, oh, wow, I'm going to get rich off of this. But it's like, oh, okay, I can make some money to sustain what I'm doing. My family don't have to worry about me, And then I just kind of like fell in love with like the idea of creating work and presenting it to the people in a direct way through like galleries or working with different, brands like that.
So essentially you just kept making the work and putting it out there in the city where you could find spaces.
Yeah, it started off super organic. Like, if there was like alleys, I'll go in an alley, I'll paint something. If there was abandoned warehouses, I'll go paint abandoned warehouses. If there was like where the trains are at, on the side of train, like where anywhere I would go and try to do my thing. But then also at that time I was going to school downtown Chicago, and I would just take the train and I would put stickers up everywhere. I would do my little tags everywhere. And I wasn't just doing my character, I was also doing like random little things that street artists do. They just try to, and people caught on.
Yeah. So people just started to take notice and then try to get in touch with you and show your work.
So then galleries, would try to reach out. And then I'm like, oh my God, there's galleries reaching out to me. Like, yes, I do want to work. And I would just, work with any gallery that kind of reached out at that time. Because I was just like, the fact that anybody's noticing it on that level meant a lot.
Yes, I can imagine. And were you creating work that was suitable for galleries at that point? Like, did you have artworks available?
I didn't really have, like, I didn't have, like, a body of work. Like, I didn't even know what that meant. You know, now I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm working on this body of work for this exhibition. But then it's like, oh, I got these random, you know, things that I just painted. So I did create a ton of work and drawings and paintings and my murals. And I remember printing them out at school. I put together a little folder. And then I went to a lot of galleries, like, yo, like, work with me. Like, what do you think? You think this is dope? Like, this is dope, right? You want to work with me? And, you know, a lot of guys are like, oh, it's cool. You know, like, pat on the head, like, keep it up, dude. Like, but I remember one gallery, they reached out and they're like, oh, we'll make a studio visit. And at that time, I didn't have a studio. I was renting out a room. And then the house that I was renting out of, they let me use the basement kind of, sort of, to work. They didn't let me. They just weren't like, no, you can't. So I'm like, all right. So this gallery owner came over to my house and I showed her, like, yo, let's go to my basement. And it was like super dark and dingy. And she's probably like, oh my God, like, what did I get myself into? And I just showed her some of my works that I was working on. And it was like on found wood because I didn't have no money. It was like found wood, random little pieces of trash. And she's like, oh, this is cool. Yeah, let's do something. So
she saw the potential. And did she then help you put together a show, guide you in that direction?
I think, yeah, she definitely helped. She definitely helped guide. She helped really just kind of, you know, what's the word? Like propel, like what I was doing. Like kind of gave me that battery charge, you know, like, yeah, this is good. Let's do something. And yeah, from there, then I was just like, this is the opportunity I needed. So I just went crazy. Probably did like 30 pieces. And
can you tell me about the gallery shows that you've done since?
I mean, I did this really cool art fair. It's called the Other Art Fair.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of that one.
Last year. Yeah, that went crazy. I worked at All-Star Press on that. Everything sold out in a blink of an eye. No, but it was fun. We did it. And then I've done a lot of gallery shows in Chicago. But right now, I work with a gallery called Vertical, my most recent, like, work that we, you know, exhibition. I have one next year with Vertical. And then later on this year, I have one with ThinkSpace out of LA. And so I'm kind of being a little bit, you know, selective now. Now I'm like, I got to pick and choose what I want to do with my work.
And the works that you put together for Vertical are not quite using your bird mask character in the same way, are they? You've kind of gone in a slightly different direction.
Yeah, I went a different direction with that work. I didn't stick to my signature bird mask. 2 reasons, I guess. Maybe I just felt like I wanted to get something off my chest, and I didn't want to feel, no pun intended, I didn't want to feel caged in. You know, like I just wanted to.
Yeah.
So I did it, and I really liked it. Like I really liked what I was creating, and I was like, I just got to keep on this channel. Like I didn't know how people were gonna perceive it. I didn't know if my usual audience was gonna appreciate it as much. Cause it's like, you know, it's like if you go to, I don't know, if you go to something that you typically always like and they don't have what you typically always like, you might be a little upset. Like, all right, well, I'm disappointed. I typically come to, I'm trying to think, your coffee shop for a latte. I'm like, oh, we don't serve lattes today. We're only doing pour overs. And you're like, oh, you want me to digest this? But, you know, it was a good step for me.
Did the show go well?
The show went well. People came. People loved it. I felt like people saw a different side of my work. I kind of explained it in a more... If a lot of my bird mask characters is very like... You know, the bird mask represents almost a sense of freedom and hope. And for this was almost like... It's still that, but it's a little bit more like, yo, this is the situation that we're in. Like a lot of the situations that these characters are very much like... in the thick of like, you know, street stuff. And I try to like put a spin on it so it wasn't over the top with like, oh, that's a gun. Oh, that's drugs. Oh, that's police. This, that. It was just a little bit more fun a way, but it just, you know, I just had to get it off my chest.
So people could interpret it, I suppose, to different levels.
Yeah, like I try not to make it, you know, if people knew what it is, they know what it is, but... You know, if they don't know, they're still gonna see like a fish that has the fish scale as a fish, but you know, in a way that represents like cocaine or There's like someone on skates, you know, that kind of represents like someone pulling up and then skating off on whatever, you know. So I know we're going deep. We could go a different direction. We could go back in a whole different direction. But so.
Well, it's interesting talking about this because I suppose when you're painting on public walls, it's a different audience that you're painting for than making artwork that people might 100%. Want to put in their house. I mean, I know some artists feel like they have to be quite commercial with that. Like they need to sell the work.
Right.
And how far do you push it with
what
you're creating?
Yeah, I think that's why this exhibition, I pushed it as honest to me. And then when I do my commercial work, I feel okay with what I give because it's still an extension of me. It's still something that I built and I stand behind it 100%. Like, you know, sometimes, I don't even want to bring this up, but sometimes there's negative comments like, oh, all you do is the bird mask. All you do is that same character. Like, that's why you get opportunity. And it's like, yo, honestly, when you first start off, this goes out to like, you know, young up and coming artists. When you first start off, you got to really sell yourself. You know what I mean? You got to really be like, no, I stand 100% behind this weird character I made. Whether you don't recognize it, you don't know it, you don't understand it. This is what I created. This is what I offer to the world. And you know, you got to solidify it.
I'm surprised that people would make those negative comments in that direction. I'd almost think that they like the bird mask character so much that they always want you to do that and they wouldn't want you to explore in any other directions. I'm thinking
honestly, it's not even that deep. They're just jealous.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, every time I go to their page, like, all right, who said this? It's somebody that gets like 5 likes and they don't get no traction on their art. People have used that before and have said that before. Like, I'm sure people say that to any big name artist. Like, oh, all you do is that.
Yes, yeah.
Or, oh, it's just this. It's because you see them. You know, we can't see sometimes the people talking negative because we don't, you know, they're not in our view. That's a good thing when you're in somebody's view. Like, oh, they see your work. Like, that means it has a platform to be seen.
And how about people who now collect your work? Because that is, again, something that's quite different from painting on the streets to showing in a gallery.
I mean, I'm thankful for the people that collect my work, but I don't make my work for collectors, you know? I don't make it like, oh, I have this person in mind so they could hang this piece. It's like, I'm going to create it. If someone buys it, that's amazing. That means that they really resonated with the work. And if not, then on to the next canvas or on to the next, you know.
Well, you mentioned earlier when we were talking in your studio space that you like to leave all of that side to the gallery and just focus on making the work.
Right. Yeah, I think some artists are able to do the business side. They're able to build frames. They're able to stretch their canvas, hang it, do their whole, you know, SEO for their website. And for me, I know that's not my strength. I have strengths of, yo, let me just create. Let me connect to people on a genuine one-to-one level. You know, when it comes to business side, that's not my strength. But I'll work with a gallery. I'll work with maybe like a project manager. Like, yeah, they're going to take their cut, but at least I know it's allowing me to do what I want to do. Because, yeah, at the end of the day, time is money too. Like, if you're spending time doing everything else, you're still investing your own money into that. So me, I'd rather just invest my money or my time in a different way.
That leads me on to your collaborations and working with brands. Is that something you do yourself? Do you directly work with them or do you have an agent? Like, how does it work?
No, I have no agent. I have no representation. I work with the team and I work with people and gallery owners and stuff, but I don't have anybody going out there to try to sell me per se or try to go to the table and like, here's his, CV or here's his resume or portfolio. Which is it's amazing that everything's just happened off organically. Like when I did the Converse shoe, they hit me up directly. And I had to like double check, like, yo, is this from Converse.com? Like, what's going on? Like, or like when some of these brands hit me up, I'm just like, wow, like going back to what I was saying about the 17-year-old me, I have to take a step back and be like, wow, that's amazing.
Yes, I've spoken to a few artists that have had the same experience. They can't believe that it's actually the the brand that's getting in touch and they not sure what to expect really.
Yeah, because you kind of have this idea of these companies as like this big conglomerate. And then when they hit you up, it's like, you know, someone our age that's like, hey, how's it going? We want to work with you, you know, and it's like, oh, okay. Like it's the, you know, the wizard behind the curtain.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, it's just a person. And
are they still happy for you to bring the personal side to your work into the commissions?
I believe so. I'm not even sure. If I'm gonna be honest, I'm not even sure. I really never know what the brands, what their optics are of my work, like how they see it. They just know that people relate to it, you know. And I think that's something that you can never get taken away from you. If people genuinely like your work, like your audience is probably different than my audience. So I think that's sometimes why these brands like it. Like, all right, we're going to work with Sophie because her audience is in the UK. And then I'm going to work with Sent for his audience in the, you know, Chicago area. But as long as you have your audience, I think that's what these brands kind of go for more than anything. They're not like, oh, this is very good artistic portrayal and I like the aesthetic. They're just more like, oh, you got eyes, like dope.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I hate to say it, but it comes down to that. You know?
Yeah. There's been such a huge increase in brands being interested in artists over the last few years. But I think there's different approaches, isn't there? There's painted walls, there's murals, there's street art. And sometimes those can be quite muddled. Is that ever tricky? I just think there's so much depth to your work and stories. And sometimes I think brands just want a painted wall that doesn't say much. Is that something you've come across, or is it a problem or not really for you?
The way I deal with it is that it's like me and you having a conversation. You might want to talk about something and I might want to talk about something else. But at the end of the day, when we sit down and talk, whatever we talk about, and that's how it is with the brands. Like, they want to share their product. I want to share what I'm doing. So we're going to meet in the middle. We're going to have a handshake. All right, great work. You say what you want to say. I say what I want to say. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to leave and I'm going to go say what I want to say on my own, which builds up into that piece. So when somebody sees a mural that I just did with Toyota and they put it out on their commercial, yeah, that piece might not share everything that I want to talk about, but people are going to see it. Then they're going to go back to my work and like, oh, that's what this character represents, or oh, that's what this artist is about. And yeah, sometimes I get caught up in it. Like, all right, am I really like doing what I want to do? But I just think, you know, there's times you work and there's times you create. So
it sounds as though it comes from a place of just confidence in your work and what you're creating, so you can take risks and try things.
Yeah, you could take risks, you could try things, and then at the end of the day too, like, I want to inspire my community, and then I can show them like, yo, look at, I just got paid by Toyota to do my art. Like, yeah, the visual elements in that mural might not be the most like politically social forthcoming, but then in today's society, people look at the artist. They don't only just see the art. Like, maybe before social media, people just looked at the art because they couldn't get direct access to the artist. But now the artist is so much in front of people. You know, it's like you almost have to be, as an artist, you almost have to present yourself too.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that. Because...
You need me to turn on my air? Okay.
Yeah. Yes, I was going to ask you that because obviously street artists have historically had the element of secrecy, right. And now people seem to see their murals and then all their work and expect to find that person that's created the work.
Yeah.
Have a public persona that goes along with the work.
Yeah, even if that public persona is not showing your face, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, that's something that people look forward to. When it comes to street art, everybody kind of references like Banksy, or they reference even like Shepard Fairey. And Shepard Fairey is everybody knows what he looks like. There comes a time where it's like, you do your work, you're under the radar, and then once you once you kind of do your thing and you're making art for brands, you gotta kind of, present yourself. You don't have to, but for me, I do it because it's like, I want people to see who I am and what I represent. Plus, too, at the end of the day, I'm not out there on the streets like I used to be. So it's not like, the crazy thing, instead of me going and hitting this building, this company, and doing my art on the side, now it's like, all right, sit back and wait. That company is probably going to email me. So, in a way, it's like, all right, did I sell out in a way? But in a way, that's just how it worked out. And I got to be smart, because the way I grew up, I didn't grow up with a lot of money. I grew up seeing family members, kind of figure out how to make money in certain areas. So for me now, it's like, I call my family like, yo, these people just paid me to do this. Like, we're up,
Yeah. Yes, I think you could look at it both ways. But as you say, it's inspiring for the community that you're painting for, that you're being paid to create this work.
Yeah, exactly. Now I see it as like, for me taking on the label of like street artist, I just take it as I'm a street artist because I create art for the people on the streets, like the everyday people, people that come from my background. And whether that's murals, or whether you're doing wheat paste or stickers or graffiti, whatever it is, like, you're still adding art in that public space.
And do you mind how people describe your work? Because I've heard people use words like graffiti, urban art, street art, alternative art. Like, do you mind any of those? Are there any that you don't like? Or
if people ask me, I just tell them I'm a street artist. And I think the kind of background that I come from is like, it's almost like taboo, because it's like street artist is seen almost as like as a gentrifying term. It's like, oh, you gentrified graffiti because of street art. Or even if you think of street artists, I mean, how many street artists do you know that are people of color? For the most part, the big superstars are white street artists. But for me, I take it because I'm like, no, I want to embrace that term. I want to be a street artist. I want to be an artist for the streets.
And you've painted on walls all over in lots of different cities now, haven't you? So taking your work beyond Chicago.
I definitely done, all over the US. Next, I got to get out of here. I go overseas. That's my next goal.
Have you got anywhere on your wish list? Come to London.
London, France, Spain, everywhere, anywhere. If I get out of here, I would, so that's on my goal for sure.
What kind of advice would you have for someone that is starting out now and wants to make it in the street art world?
The advice I would give, that's tough. I think as a young artist, I know they hate to hear this, but don't feel entitled that these galleries or brands or even people owe you anything. At the end of the day, you got to make people fall in love with you. It's like, it's like a relationship. Like, you want to date somebody, like, you can't force somebody to fall in love with you. You know, you can be like, yo, why aren't you loving me? I'm perfect for you. You got to show people, like, go out there, put your art out there, and let people genuinely, love what you do. Then that's when the brands and the galleries, 9 out of 10 times, these brands and galleries aren't really cultivating the next superstar. In today's world, they're kind of seeing, like, they go to someone's social media, like, oh, you got people that really like this, or oh, you got eyes, or oh, you're doing something that is genuine to your environment and people like it. And I think that's what it comes down to, do something real. Because when you do it real, wherever direction you go with your art, it's going to always have a platform. Like, don't see a big name artist. All right, let me try that. Like, that don't work out. Find the people that love what you do and just build off of that.
And what are you hoping to do next then? You've gone in quite a lot of different directions with your work.
Yeah, I think because I'm a creative storyteller, I guess, as opposed to a painter or a muralist. I mean, I like painting and I like doing murals, but I think at the root of why I do it is to share a story, or to share what's behind that paint and that art. But what's next is I just want to take over a museum, a giant exhibition, and I just want kids and everybody, all, walks of life, to come and just be inspired in giant space and just think like, oh wow, like, that's dope. This dude dropped out of art school. His parents didn't even graduate high school, and they come from this background. And just put your mind to it and dream as big as you can and create your own world, That's what I want to do. Like, I want to work with a big brand. Let me create an alternate world. That's what I do art for,
Well, I think that's a big dream. Taking over a museum would be incredible.
Oh, it's in the works. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to come and I would love to see it. I can't wait to see what you do. You have such a strong character and such big ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, I would. Yeah, you guys come out. We'll do a podcast at the museum.
Yes, that would be great. Oh, well, thank you so much for talking to me today in your Pilsen space. It's amazing to be here.
Thank you, Sophie, for I hope whoever's listening gets inspired, or at least takes a little nugget of advice, or even if it just like sparks something.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining this week. Please follow Sentrock at Sentrock and the podcast at The Visible Artist Podcast. I hope you have a wonderful week in the studio, and I'll see you next Friday.